Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 32. I'm Igneous and today we're still on Omicron. We haven't gone anywhere. We're actually still standing on top of our base because it's got quite a nice view from this end of things. And we've been working very diligently on our new capital ship, and we're going to be spending this entire episode looking at exactly what we've done. This is probably the best time that I could have stopped and taken a break from the building and shown you guys where we are, because it's a very large ship. And sometimes doing the walkthrough of the ship isn't always the best view of things. You see the sun is just coming up. We couldn't have timed it any better. Here's the front of the ship, right here. And it goes all the way back there. We're not necessarily going to use the full length. I can imagine lopping off a little bit from the end there, but realistically speaking, it's quite a bit larger than the Spectre Alpha down there. And it's laid out quite a bit better, but more importantly, so far, it's entirely made out of combat steel blocks. There are no hardened steel or steel blocks anywhere on this ship. I think there might be some buried in one of these legs. These big pods that the legs are attached to, I guess you could say. These are just a big cluster of blocks, a little bit sculpted, you know, kind of softened some of the angles and such so that we could put these skinny little legs on there. There were two options for landing gears: the light landing gears, which are these guys, or the heavy landing gears, which is what we have way down there on the Spectre Alpha. I wonder if we should maybe take a look. We'll just kind of use the sniper rifle to scope in. See, those are the big heavy guys down there. That's kind of a view. They got like 4 little toes on them and then they stick out, versus these guys. The difference, these guys have 20 hit points and the big ones down there have 40. So if something's shooting you in the landing gears, it doesn't really matter which gear you chose. It's going to be destroyed pretty quick. There's not much you can do about that. So I chose these because I like the look of them as something different this time around, even if they do look like little scrawny feet attached to this gigantic ship. We've got the core of the ship right here, as you can tell. We've buried it in more combat steel blocks all the way around there. And then the underside is basically just a big flat sheet of combat steel blocks. So far, there's going to be some sculpting done on the underside here. Another big mound of blocks. It's just solid. There's no hollow blocks in here at all, with the third landing gear on it. I decided not to go with lots of landing gears because I didn't really feel like they were contributing a whole lot to the stability of the ship when we're trying to land it and such. But we'll see. We've got all of our thrusters on. We've got 5 large thrusters on either side to help with the maneuvering side to side. We've got 4 thrusters on the top and bottom to help with ascending and descending. And then we've got 2 extra large thrusters facing forward and 2 facing back to help with the forward and reverse maneuvering. This guy down here only has 1 extra large thruster on the entire ship. This guy here so far has 4. So I'm optimistic that that will help a little bit with the maneuvering, understanding that we're going to lose a little bit of maneuvering with the weight of the combat steel blocks and the extra size of the ship. But it should come together in a way that I'll be satisfied with. Not necessarily thrilled, but satisfied. Now, I was thinking of doing the drone flyby on the rest of it, but the sepia tones that you get when you're looking through the drone camera are perhaps not ideal. Sometimes it makes sense if you're just taking a quick look at something. If you're going to take a bit of a flyby and point out 1 or 2 things, it's not that bad. Other times, everybody benefits from the clean view. So if we come up here, you can get a much better view of the ship as it's coming together, with all the different thrusters sticking out in all the different directions. And the reason why I said that this is probably the best time for me to stop and take a bit of a break and look around is that you can see everything that we put into the ship so far, where it is, how it kind of is arranged relative to the outside hull, and all the other different things that you might want to consider. Now, I think we can do even one better here. And we can land on this guy. And now that we're up top, we've had the panoramic view. We can kind of get down into the nitty-gritty. We just got to be careful about the jetpack fuel. A lot of missed jumps take place from not realizing your jetpack was still out of fuel. So again, with this being the front of the ship up here, what I wanted to do was set things up so that the critical containers, our oxygen tanks, our fuel tanks, that's really it, are right up front so that we have easy access to them. I haven't even decided where they're going to enter the ship from yet, to be really honest with you guys. That's something that we can decide pretty much at any point. I'm not too weird about that, but still I like to have the critical containers grouped together in a way that I think, at least in the process of making the ship, is going to make sense and make things a little bit more convenient. We've got the oxygen dispenser here, our O2 station, where we can fill up our oxygen tanks. We've got the medic station here. We've got the warp tank, which is where we put the fuel for the warp drive. And then, of course, we've got just a really simple, basic control seat this time around. I found with Spectre Alpha that having the larger one, it looked cool, but it's only 2 blocks wide. So no matter where you place it, it's off center, and I wasn't really too thrilled about that. So we just got the little skinny guy. The front looks pretty dull right now, and that'll change as we go through the process of sculpting and kind of getting everything looking the way that we're happy with. But for now, I just kind of wanted to spot it in place so we have an idea of where it's going to be, and we can make decisions with that in view, as opposed to just trying to visualize it in our mind. The whole idea here is that there's going to be no windows on the front of this ship. I've realized now the error of my ways. With that little guy, with the Spectre Alpha, with pretty much every ship that I've made, we don't use the cockpit view. And it's kind of silly to make the ship vulnerable on the front end with glass, even if it's the armored glass, for a cockpit view that we never use. So we're going to be sculpting the front end, again, hoping that it will look nice when we're done, but completely without glass. And then when we're moving around, navigating, as it will, we'll be using the third-person view for the ship. And then when we're actually shooting at things like bases and such, we'll probably be using the turret view, because using this little guy with his little rail guns to try and kill anything, it's kind of funny, actually. I found a desert golem, and I wish I had recorded it. We'll see more desert golems before we leave Omicron. Don't feel like I'm leaving you guys out of anything important, but I found one, and it was absolutely enormous compared to what I was expecting. And I thought, wow, such a big fat target. I should have no problem killing it with my railguns. I couldn't hit it. I couldn't hit the damn thing. Even when I thought I hit it, I was missing it. It was terrible. So turrets is the way forward. This is a great little scout. It's got some armaments if we absolutely need them, but in terms of sending it somewhere to do anything nasty to horrible villains, take the big ship. That's kind of the lesson that we've learned. So we've got the tanks. We've got 2 of these. These are the jumbo engines, or the generators. I don't think I've shown you guys these ones yet. These are the ones that were recently added, the Tier 2 generators. They are quite large, and they output quite a lot of power. I have 2 of these in the Spectre Alpha, and now my power consumption, I think, goes maybe around 30% if I'm maxed out. Don't quote me on that, because I haven't been paying close attention to it lately, but we've got 2 of these on, and we've got lots of power, I guess is the long and short of what I'm saying. And again, these are kind of put in a position where by the time everything is all sculpted and filled in, these are going to have a lot of armor around them. We aren't going to have to worry too much about losing them, but they're in a visible position, so if something does happen to one of them, I've got a better chance of noticing, as opposed to just flopping around trying to wonder why my trying to figure out why my ship isn't behaving the way that it's supposed to, and it's going out of power. So that's a thing. And then we have to be able to get up and over this warp drive right here. The warp drive isn't shielded. I hope it doesn't give off radiation. Let's get a light in here so you can see a little bit better. Goes all the way around, just like the other warp drive. But the other warp drive, despite the fact that I really like the look of them, you couldn't see it. We buried it in the ship, and that was not so much fun. So now this time, we can walk right over top of it, and then we come down on the other side, and this brings us into our machine area. Now I think of this in some ways as kind of like a secondary area, like we could potentially take a bit of damage to this area and not really be too upset about it. The truth is, I don't like losing anything on my ships. It takes too damn long to do all the resource gathering to just sacrifice things to the the gods of fire through the hull bastards that really like to blow up our ammunition, and then the ammunition explodes and kills everything else. So this rear section will be well armored again. We aren't going to be taking any chances with it. We've got a couple of food processors, we've got a couple of fridges, we've got a couple of containers just for things related to food processors if we want them. On the other side, we've got 2 tier 2 constructors, and I think I've got 8. Yeah, I've got 8 cargo boxes for things like ingots and ores and all the other things that you would want to put into these guys. And then I've got 10 large ammo boxes, and these will be feeding ammunition to the barrage of turrets that will be all over the ship in various different places, strategically located. And then lastly, we can open this, but there's no power on the ship yet. I've got everything in place, but I haven't brought any fuel packs up to help it out. This is all the way to the rear of the ship. It takes up pretty much the whole upper deck that we set aside for shipbuilding. And this is going to be where we have the hangar, I think. I want a hangar that can carry a pair of ships, something like our small vessel here, and also a new hover ship. Hover vessel I think would be kind of neat at some point. And then have a nice convenient hangar where we can load our ships on fairly easily and take them with us if we're going on a long sort of adventure to a new planet, and that way we don't have to worry about building new ships when we get there. It was really handy to be able to bring our small vessel with us in the Spectre Alpha, but that hangar that we're looking at right in the crosshairs isn't much of a hangar. It was more like a roof, a space roof, so that the space wind wouldn't blow it off the ship. I don't know. It just, we were hoping to get doors on it and it didn't work, but here we've got an opportunity to put on doors in a way where they will work. So that's what we'll do, and that'll be our hangar. And then lastly, I do expect, because it has worked out so well so far, that we're going to put another garden on the ship here somewhere, probably around the same size as the Spectre Alpha. It has basically room for a dozen of the 3 different things that I need in order to make canned vegetables, which is a pretty good, stable kind of food that we can use and carry around. In fact, this is the last one that I've got on my person, and I've got about 36 of them in storage in our base. So I mean, this is my preferred type of food just because it lasts a long time, it's easy to make, and we can make it all with stuff that's readily available if we grow a few vegetables on our ships. So that's an option that we have as well. So as far as guns, we're going to continue the trend with the miniguns and the plasma cannons. Only we're going to set things up this time so that we don't have to swap turrets when we go to different places and do different things. We had a plasma cannon for in space and minigun turrets for down on the planet, because you're not allowed to use plasma on the planets, and that's what we were doing with the Spectre Alpha. We would have that one turret on the front where it was in a good location where we could manually control it and see lots of things, but swapping back and forth, maybe not the best. I would like to have both of them on the ship at the same time so that we can make use of them when it makes sense for us to use them. So that's going to be the goal there. And then plus lots of turrets on the outside of the ship that can be used automatically to defend against drones and other things that we might encounter where we just can't be bothered to try and get into an extended fight with them and line everything up and shoot them and all that other stuff. Too damn lazy for that. Oh yeah, we've got 10 RCS units here, the tier 2 RCS. We'll do a little bit of testing. We're going to leave a little bit of space if it doesn't feel like the ship is maneuverable enough when we do the first power up and, you know, jigger around. We can always add more. It's not that big of a deal. I went and mined out a deposit of iron. I had shown you guys in the last episode where it was on the world map, and I had already taken about 25% of it. I took the rest of it, and we're almost used it all up already. But it was nice to have and not have to leave the planet in order to get to it. So that's so far what we've got on our capital ship. Now the work that I'm going to be focusing on over the next couple of days, preparing for the next episode, is going to be sculpting and making the ship look kind of the way that I want it to. One of the things that I've been trying to do is, you've got this extra large thruster here, and it kind of, you know, it does its thing. It thrusts in a backward direction because of where we put it. I don't want to put anything in its jet wash, because you never know when the update comes where they add thruster damage like they have in Space Engineers. So just for my own peace of mind, I've been going out of my way to make sure that things aren't going to be damaged by thrusters, you know, firing into other thrusters or other things. So that's kind of defined where I put everything so far. And now most of this stuff being on gives me a lot of freedom to do the sculpting and kind of take a look at how things are coming together and ultimately work towards a finished ship. That's basically what I've been doing. There's a lot of things that I would still love to do in the base, but it's one of those things where I've just got so many things that I want to do and I would enjoy all of them that I'm just kind of picking and choosing. And the next thing that I'm looking forward to the most is working on the ship and getting it looking the way I'm hoping that it's going to perform. So the next episode, you'll see the fruits of those labors, and probably a little bit more discussion on why we sculpted things in a certain way and how it impacts, hopefully, the survivability of the ship in terms of the placement of armor relative to the important systems. And then within, I would say, 2 or 3 episodes at the most, we should have this ship in service, and then we can basically dismantle this one and put its materials back into service for other projects and other things. Once we get this ship into service, we're going to test it by going around all the different bases on Omicron and destroying their turrets so that I can raid them and take all their epic loots. So that's the plan. If you want to be notified when I add those future episodes, you can always subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.